Therefore, we see a lot of variation. Some pigs get it badly, and many pigs, as Dr. Vence says, get subclinical diarrhea, subclinical lesions, some with diarrhea, but many pigs with no diarrhea. So it's very common. We have a lot more information now. We have the gene sequence. It consists of this chromosome and three plasmids. So we know all the genes. Unfortunately, that has not enabled us to understand exactly why the proliferation occurs, why the disease follows that particular pattern in the pig, but hopefully we will get there. So just some information about diarrhea as a bit of a summary there. Typically the diarrhea, it's very common, so we might get a short period of diarrhea or longer periods. Like many diseases, we find that most animals suffer for a short time, a few weeks, but in some cases pigs continue to get the disease for a long period of time and become persistent shedders into the environment. Now, like all enteric organisms, enteric problems, Lawsonia must have the ability to survive in feces on the ground for some period. It's no good if you're trying to live in the intestines to die quickly in the environment. So it must stay viable in the environment for some period. It spreads easily around pig farms. The general suggestion is that it's embedded in the farm. So if we stop treatment or stop vaccination, then the disease will quickly reappear. So it's a bit like E. coli. E. coli and Lawsonia seem to be embedded in the pig farms, so they just live there in the pig farm environment. We've managed a lot of progress, as I said, the gene sequence, but also diagnostic testing, and we've got good information on how it occurs on pig farms. So we can look at patterns of ileitis. We know that in surveys we find that something like 95% of farms globally, in Europe or America and here in Asia, are infected. The pattern of infection depends a little bit on the farm system, exactly how the farm is operated. And we've also a lot more information about antibiotics that are effective, but as yet, and people have put a lot of effort into trying to get information on alternatives to antibiotics, but unfortunately none has been clearly identified. So we have in a modern farm here, there's basically two types of farms, pig farms. We can have a single site farm where we have the breeding group and the growing group all together, or we can separate those where we have the breeding farm in one area, one site, and this a finishing site here at a separate location. So a multiple site farm. And on these multiple site farms, we typically find that this is a chart showing the age of the pigs compared to the number of pigs that are serology positive for ileitis. And there we have the young pigs with their mother, get some maternal antibodies, but then after weaning, maternal antibodies die away, and we have the nursery period there. But then later in life, in these multiple site farms, typically the ileitis appears in the finishing group and they become antibody positive. So it's a somewhat later infection. Infection is delayed in multiple site farms. However, it's very difficult to predict exactly when that infection will occur. This is information just about one farm, where this farm we followed the serology positive pigs in different batches over a period of time. So this is 2 years worth of information, 5 batches of pigs. We hope to get 2 batches of pigs per year. So we have different colours represent different groups of pigs on the same farm, and we find that, as you can see, the onset of infection on the same farm occurs at different times. So sometimes the infection started early and sometimes it started later. Sometimes it was a lot of infection and sometimes it was less. So it's very difficult to predict exactly when ileitis will exactly occur or start to occur on any farm. Now, what about the other types of farms? Single site farms is a typical single site farm. We saw some in the video. Typical single site farm in Europe with good biosecurity. Here's another single site farm with not so good biosecurity, not so good cleaning, not so good hygiene. So on this type of more dirty farm, we would expect more ileitis. But on a single site farm, we find that the infection comes earlier. It tends to occur in the nursery. So we have the maternal antibodies again, which die away, but the infection comes early in the nursery. We have the green line represents PCR positive feces, followed at some period by the antibody production in the pigs. So on single site farms, often smaller family farms, for example, continuous flow, you'll find that the infection is at a fairly early stage in the nursery. All of this, of course, is impact for treatment or in particular for timing of vaccination, of course. Any vaccine we must get in before the infection starts. Now, what about treatment? Antibiotics do work. It's Lawsonia is a bacteria, so if we use the right antibiotics, but they are mainly for treatment. So antibiotics are good for treating ileitis, but we've established good antibiotics that work in field trials and MIC studies, but in particular in challenge studies. However, the problem is that antibiotics do not work very well for control on their own. They're good for treatment, but not much good for control. As I said, most farms retain the infection. The time of infection varies. So therefore, the strategic timing for antibiotics, trying to create some kind of immunity, is very difficult. And I can remember before we had the vaccines that trying to talk with farmers and trying to get the best time for treatment was a very, very difficult process. So vaccines for control are much better and much preferred. We have 2 different types of vaccines for ileitis, and we'll hear a bit more about those. Live attenuated vaccines offer a stress-free delivery. They're delivered to the gut, so therefore we're looking for an enhanced immunity in the gut where the infection occurs. They tend to provoke a much broader cellular and antibody immunity compared to killed vaccines. Vaccines can be administered by orally and different methods, and backpacks or directly or in gel formulation. So all we're trying to do is make sure the pigs get a good oral dose. I'll just mention a little bit about the economic impact globally of ileitis. So, why bother? Why vaccinate? Why are we worried? And it's very important for farmers to work out what's the benefit of vaccines, what's the return on investment of all the interventions. Farmers get a lot of people trying to sell them things about different additives and different products. It's very important to focus on why and the benefits.